I'm here as a part of our Congress in Your Community tour. As many of you know, I go to all of my counties every year. We move it around and we host roundtable discussions. We host resource fairs. We host town hall meetings. You know, it is so important for me to be amongst the people that I represent on a daily basis in order to take what I learned from you all and use that in Washington to represent you. That is really my job. And it's a job that I do not take lightly. I grew up in the rural part of my district in Selma, Alabama. I consider myself to be a daughter of the Black Belt. And it is an honor for me to be sitting at decision-making tables in Washington, D.C., and to share my story, your story, our story with the people who are making decisions about resources and opportunities in America.
Hey everybody, Sam Liccardo coming at you about 6:30 in the morning on the way to the airport at SFO to fly out to DC for a round of votes this evening. Now, the talk in DC and throughout the rest of the country is increasingly turning to whether or not there's going to be a government shutdown in about 3 weeks. Now, the way this typically works is Congress is required to get some appropriations bills over the goal line passed in the House and the Senate. Both of those houses are, of course, controlled by Republicans, so they can be signed by the president. Republicans control the process. Only a few appropriations bills have been passed at this point. We are unlikely to see all the appropriations bills get through, and so we are now left with what is commonly known as a continuing resolution as the path, or CR, as it's commonly called. Now, continuing resolutions are increasingly used because Congress is not agreeing on appropriations. In this case, a CR is particularly challenging because what we've seen in terms of behavior from this president is an unwillingness to abide by the law that Congress passes and that he signs. That is, we've seen, for example, with DOJ pulling money back illegally. Many courts have now issued injunctions against what DOJ has done. Now, more recently, what we call pocket rescissions. These are efforts by the White House to pull money back, doing so late that Congress can't even consider whether or not the rescission's lawful. This has, by the way, been met with resistance from Senate Republicans. The decision of the White House for these pocket rescissions, billions of dollars of money. We've now heard from Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski on the Republican side saying this is a complete violation of the Constitution. Obviously, that'll all get fought out in the courts, but it leaves us in a position of, well, we can't really agree to anything if we know he's just going to ignore whatever it is we agreed to. And right now, the Republicans have a bit of a challenge because to get a CR over the goal line, they need a few Democrats on the Senate side to get past what they call the filibuster. And the number of Democrats they need will vary, but it's just a handful, probably about a half dozen or so. And it's going to be hard for anyone to say, sure, let's negotiate, particularly when Republicans have not yet actually presented anything to negotiate over. So we're in this pretty odd moment where it appears there's going to be no negotiation because the Republicans don't want to negotiate. It's obviously their Congress to control at this point. I look forward to seeing how they might be able to propose something we can live with. What I am going to insist on is clear guardrails that ensure that this president follows the Constitution, Article 1, and actually sticking to the law when we agree the spending law is going to get passed. So that's what we'll be fighting over the next few weeks. I'll be back at you later on this week. Thanks.
With us now here on the Hill, Republican Congressman from the Tar Heel State, Greg Murphy, with us tonight. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Obviously, we're not showing all of the video there. The woman was stabbed, this 23-year-old, multiple times as she was murdered. When you first saw that video, it's as we heard there from Kelly, the president, bringing it up and talking about it earlier today. What was your reaction?
Words don't describe that, Blake. That was horrible. It's a tragedy. And honestly, it just highlights the defects that we have in our criminal justice system. And, gosh, my kids live in Charlotte. I actually texted them today. I have one that rides that light rail just to always be aware of your surroundings. But it highlights the fact that we've had policies which have been pro-criminal for quite some time, and these are some of the repercussions from it.
What changes need to be made there in North Carolina and in Charlotte? As I hear you talking, we're obviously talking to you as a member of Congress, but it sounds like you're also a concerned father.
Yeah, sure. I mean, North Carolina is my home. I've looked at what, Roy Cooper is running for Senate now. when he was Attorney General, also soft on crime. We have a governor now soft on crime, and his remarks today were just astonishing. This is where this cashless bail thing, this is where criminals need to be locked away. Criminals deserve to be in prison for what they've done. And God, look, we have to have a safe society for people to be in. And sadly enough, this gal comes from Ukraine, where Putin's dictatorship is creating such a havoc in Eastern Europe. Here she comes, and she's trying to seek safety in the U.S., and this is what she gets. These are some of the problems that we see because of domestic wokeness, if you will, allowing people like this to out on the streets and doing horrible things like this.
I just heard you bring up.
It's hard even to talk about this, Blake. It's so disgusting.
I just heard you bring up Roy Cooper, who was the former governor there. Of course, he's running for the United States Senate as a Democrat. The president, in his post, mentioned vote Michael Whatley, who is the Republican candidate in this case. The White House is clearly linking this to the Senate race. Are you comfortable with them doing that?
Well, look, Roy Cooper was Attorney General for a very, very long time. So was Josh Stein, who's now the governor quite some time. They fought so many of the things that we want to do in North Carolina to have a true good justice system. They put judges into judicial places that were easy on crime. No, this is a direct reflection of these type of policies. Yes, could it have been prevented by another policeman standing? Yes. But we have enough cops. We don't have the good judicial people in place that keep criminals in prisons.
Your colleague, Congressman Randy Fine, said the following. He said, I'm going to introduce legislation to hold judges accountable when violent repeat offenders say or they commit new crimes. It's easy, the congressman says, to release criminals when you're protected by an armed bailiff at all times. The rest of us aren't so lucky. Those 12-plus judges that released DeCarlos Brown Jr. should have their day in court, too. Are you willing to go there?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that, Blake. Judges are there to make judgments, but the problem is when we put the wrong judges in place because of ideas and standards, this is what you get. You can't fault somebody, I think, if they've been put in place, but you also don't need to put those type of individuals in those places. And this is what Roy Cooper did for, so many years, and this is what we're seeing throughout the country with Democratic judges.
All right. Congressman Greg Murphy, Republican there from North Carolina, with us tonight here on the Hill. Talk to you again.
Hello, I'm Congressman Gus Bilirakis. I deeply am honored to serve as co-chair of the Rare Disease Caucus in Congress. This issue is personal to me. I've met countless families across Florida and throughout the country whose lives have been turned upside down by rare conditions, often misunderstood, misdiagnosed, or overlooked by the broader healthcare system. These patients show incredible courage and resilience. Their stories remind us that behind every statistic is a child, a parent, a friend, or a neighbor who deserves hope and a real path to treatment. Our community includes a strong and growing presence of life sciences and biotech companies dedicated to improving patient outcomes. These companies not only contribute to our economy, but also play a vital role in advancing therapies that transform lives. I was proud to be an early co-sponsor of the Orphan Cures Act, legislation that helps ensure rare disease patients don't get left behind, because these conditions affect small populations. Financial incentives for research can be limited. That's where Congress must step in, creating policies that reward innovation and accelerate access to life-saving treatments. This bill also demonstrated the power of patient advocacy. When patients speak, lawmakers listen. Now that the Orphan Cures Act is law, we are focused on reauthorizing and strengthening the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher Program, which has been a proven success in encouraging private investment in treatments for children with few options. Beyond that, we are advancing policies to improve diagnostics, support real-world evidence in regulatory decisions, and remove barriers to treatment access once approved. Federal investment, especially through NIH, remains critical for de-risking early stage research and keeping America at the forefront of biomedical innovation. But public-private partnerships are the engine. They're the engine that turns the research into real-world therapies. Congress must continue supporting these partnerships and fostering a regulatory environment that encourages, not stifles, innovation. In the face of global competition from countries like China and the EU, we must defend U.S. intellectual property and aggressively invest in domestic R&D, workforce training, and advanced manufacturing. This dual strategy will help keep America competitive and ensure patients here and worldwide benefit from cutting-edge treatments. Finally, I urge all members of the Rare Disease Company Coalition to remain strong partners with Congress. Sharing patient stories, very important. Data and honest feedback that help shape smarter legislation. Together, we can ensure that innovation continues to deliver hope and healing to patients with rare diseases. Thank you.
Back to Washington, D.C. Another exciting week in Congress. Just got finished with a very robust conversation on Governor DeSantis' new extreme proposal to ban vaccines for our school children. Take a look at a video of that discussion on our Facebook and YouTube.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor and thank Dale Anderson for his service to the 5th Congressional District of Colorado for over 18 years. Dale served my predecessor, Congressman Doug Lamborn, in several roles, and he served as a senior advisor in my office. Before working for Congress, Dale served our country in the Army for 9 years, and his keen strategic eye and leadership is evident in everything that he does. Dale has served me in building relationships in the business community, in defense sector, and in our district, and his extensive knowledge of the district has proven invaluable to me and to my team. I'm certain that these relationships and skills will serve him well as he continues to serve the Pikes Peak region in his new role at the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce as the Senior Vice President. I wish Dale and his wife Jenny the very best as they return to Colorado Springs and thank them for their service and their sacrifice for the 5th Congressional District of Colorado. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back.
Hey, it's Congressman Robert Garcia. As you may have heard, Oversight Democrats just got a hold of the Jeffrey Epstein birthday book and note that, of course, was sent by Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. This note, Donald Trump has said, does not exist. Well, once again, he is lying to the American public and is leading a White House cover-up. Now, I'm going to show you the note that we've now acquired. It's a little crude, so I do apologize if you don't want to see it, but this is the actual note. You see the president's signature there. You can read some of the words that he is sharing with his friend, Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. President, this is not a hoax. You are lying to the American public. You are involved in a cover-up. Now, the Oversight Committee is going to be reviewing the documents we received today, and we will not stop until we get justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and all those that were involved. We do not care how powerful you are, how connected you are, how much money and wealth you have, or what political party that you are in. We'll get justice for these survivors, and we'll get to the truth.
I want to thank this administration for this landmark legislation.
I'm here today to say thank you to this administration for leading the charge and making sure that almost 6% of Floridians that have occupations where they are tipped are no longer taxed on that income.
I want to thank the administration for its critical support of our manufacturing sector and our small businesses. A typical family with 2 children will see anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 in annual wage increases.
And it is because of this administration that almost 5 million Floridians, senior citizens, that are taxed on their Social Security will no longer have to be taxed on that income.
This legislation is doing exactly what he promised it would do and protecting our families, the people that I represent, and we are truly grateful.
Before us this week is the National Defense Authorization Act. Last year, Republicans turned what's supposed to be a national security funding bill into a right-wing wish list. They loaded it up with attacks on reproductive rights. They targeted LGBTQ service members. They went after diversity programs in the military. It wasn't about defense. It wasn't about protecting this country. It was all about playing politics with our national defense. And I fear it will be the exact same thing this year. The same extremist playbook. Pass it out of committee with bipartisan support, then blow it up on the House floor with a pile of culture war garbage that has nothing to do with keeping America safe. So let's be clear. This isn't about national defense. It's about political theater. It's about turning the Department of Defense, the Department of War, since Donald Trump apparently changed the name, into a campaign prop. Kind of interesting that the president who says he wants a Nobel Peace Prize is fantasizing about war. But I guess that makes sense coming from the guy who's never actually been in a war because he had bone spurs. And just this weekend, he posted, and I quote, "Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War." Let that sink in. A sitting president threatening to use the U.S. military to wage war on an American city against American citizens. That's not leadership. That's nuts. Imagine if President Obama tweeted out that he was going to war with Republican-led cities. You guys would be having a meltdown. And putting all that aside, I'll tell you this. I don't vote for the NDAA. I think I might have voted yes on the NDAA once in my entire career. And the reason why is quite simple. I refuse to send nearly $1 trillion to an agency that can't even pass an audit. The Pentagon loses track of an insane amount of taxpayer money year after year, and we reward them with more. No, that's not defense. That's insanity. The stuff they overpay for is insane. The Air Force paid a $150,000 markup on soap dispensers, $1,500 for a single coffee cup. Those aren't just numbers I made up. They came from the very conservative Heritage Foundation. Imagine if we invested all those billions of wasted dollars here at home on ending hunger, on housing, or education, or making people's lives better. But instead, we're stuck in this circus. And speaking of circuses, let's talk about the Epstein files. Despite the best efforts of my friends on the other side, this issue is not going to go away. Republicans are doing everything they can to stall, distract, and cover up. Republicans on oversight touted releasing new records, but the vast majority of the documents they released were already public. Up in Massachusetts, we call that a scam. And while survivors stood outside the Capitol begging for justice, sharing their painful stories, Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office calling the whole thing, quote, irrelevant. I still can't believe he said that. The victims are begging for transparency, begging for us to pass the Massey Connor bill, begging for this administration to release the files. And the President of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, says that they are irrelevant, says it's all a hoax. It wasn't a hoax when Trump promised to release all the files. It wasn't a hoax when his own allies said that they had the client list sitting on their desk and were ready to make it public. And now get this, Speaker Mike Johnson said Donald Trump was an FBI informant on this case. Now, I'm not surprised the Speaker walked it back because usually an informant knows something about what's going on. Being an informant implies being in on the crime. So again, we really, really, really need to know what the hell is in those files. And we need Republicans to stop shielding the powerful and start standing with the survivors. It's simple. Republicans can either sign the bipartisan Massey Connor discharge petition, or better yet, put the bill on the floor this week, which will finally give the public the full truth, or they can keep burying it. No more stalling, no more excuses, no more cover-ups. Release the files. I yield back.
Mr. President, this evening I want to recognize the upcoming anniversary of an important day in our nation's history, in our military history. September 9th marks the beginning of the Italian campaign of World War II in 1943, a campaign that was only successful because of the courage and sacrifice of hundreds of thousands of U.S. and Allied soldiers. I am introducing a resolution to establish September 9th as the National World War II Italian Campaign Remembrance Day to commemorate their value, their valor, and ensure their legacy endures for generations to come. 82 years ago, Allied forces launched Operation Avalanche, marking the start of the liberation of the Italian peninsula from fascist Nazi occupation. This military campaign was a testament to the unyielding resolve of U.S. forces and the strength of our foreign military alliances, united by a shared commitment to democratic ideals and fighting fascism. The Italian campaign was not just a series of joint and allied military operations. It was a stand against of despotism and defense of freedom we value, an important moment in our nation, in fact, in our world's history. The Italian campaign was fought across treacherous terrain from the shores of North Africa to the waters of Sicily, along rugged Alpha coast, which ultimately led to the liberation of Rome, that first major European city liberated during World War II. U.S. forces, alongside brave and committed global allied forces from over 10 nations, including Italian resistance brigades, faced grueling conditions, fierce combat, and severe material constraints. Battles such as Monte Cassino and Anzio stand as two of the most intensive of the war, costing countless lives. Today, fewer than 0.5% of the more than 16 million Americans who served in World War II are still living today. The veterans of the Italian campaign include my father, Staff Sergeant Raymond Moran of the 603rd Armament Maintenance Battalion, and they are a dwindling number. My father dedicated 2 years of his life to the liberation of Italy, repairing rifles and other small arm weapons under the regular threat of attack to make certain U.S. forces were equipped to win. I'm joined in this resolution by my colleague from Florida, Senator Rick Scott, whose father also served in this campaign, in recognizing the personal and collective sacrifices of these heroes. The Italian campaign spanned 602 days, culminating in the surrender at Caserta, just north of Naples, on April the 29th, 1945, when nearly 1 million Axis troops capitulated, the largest surrender of German forces at that point in the war. The following day, Adolf Hitler's death marked the collapse of Nazi regime, a turning point that made possible by the military operations comprising the Italian campaign. This resolution acknowledges the tremendous and significant cost of the Italian campaign, with hundreds of thousands of U.S. and Allied casualties, many of whom rest in the serene and pristine American cemeteries across Italy. Our resolution reaffirms that the victory was driven by an unwavering force of will, ironclad military alliances, and the enduring power of democratic values and principles that remain vital in today's global conflicts. I hope my colleagues in the Senate will join me in honoring the memory of those who fought and died in the Italian campaign, salute those surviving veterans, and to recognize the families who carry on their legacy. Let us designate September 9th as National World War II Italian Campaign Remembrance Day to ensure their sacrifices are not forgotten and memorialized here on the floor of the United States Senate. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
The Supreme Court has already warned the rogue judges, the activist judges, that they are not to defy the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's already spoken on this. 3 of the Supreme Court justices have warned the lower courts, and now is the time for the Supreme Court to take strong action to tell the lower courts, once the Supreme Court rules on something, they do not defy the Supreme Court. That's what's happening here. The district judges are trying to delay the Trump agenda until Trump leaves office as much as they can. They're trying to stop the Trump agenda. That's all they're doing. The Supreme Court needs to step in and take stronger action, because we continue to see violence for the illegal immigrants in the United States. That's the price that the taxpayers, the citizens of America, are paying.
A couple of weeks ago, I was able to visit the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center and better understand how the Republican tax bill is going to harm our communities. We're working together to try to minimize the damage, working with state government, community organizations, and of course the leadership at Waianae to try to make sure that everybody stays eligible for Medicaid. That's going to be the big challenge in front of us over the next several years.
We were able to show him the wonderful things we do, the programs that we already have, and programs for the future, such as our educational programs. The fact that we have a family medicine residency that just started a month ago. We're already 800 physicians down in the state of Hawaii, but especially in rural areas, underserved areas like ours. And so it's really important that we train physicians in the areas where they are critically needed.
Obviously, front of mind for everyone is the cuts in Medicaid that are certainly going to be coming. The system that's going to make it very difficult for people to enroll and potentially re-enroll. And so we talked about strategies for that to make sure that folks in community, won't lose their coverage, and that we can work to help them keep their coverage. And, I think that's going to take a lot of continued work and dialogue from everybody, at the federal, state, community level.
It was a true honor to have Senator Schatz here to visit with us at the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. He listened. We raised some really salient issues, and I think he's going to be very, very key to helping us resolve some of these issues.
Thanks for coming out here, taking your time. Really appreciate it.
Nice to see you.
All right.
Okay.
25,840 contraband cell phone recoveries. Brendan Carr, what's the effect of that?
Yeah, President Trump is making America safe again, and he's delivering results in ways that we didn't see in the last 4 years. This is one example. As you noted, tens of thousands of contraband cell phones have been pouring into prisons all across the country. They're being used to orchestrate kidnappings, to order hits, to run drug operations and criminal enterprises. The senator and I had a chance to visit a Supermax prison in Arkansas, and they said that contraband cell phones are the root of so much that has gone wrong. And increasingly during the Biden years, state and local law enforcement went to the administration and asked for help, and they didn't get it. Now with President Trump, that's changing, and we're going to allow state and local law enforcement to take action.
Hello, I'm Congressman John Mannion. Every year I have the privilege of nominating outstanding young men and women from New York's 22nd District to attend our nation's service academies. These institutions shape the next generation of leaders, men and women committed to excellence and service to our country. There are 4 academies that require a congressional nomination: the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis, the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point. Just a note, the Coast Guard Academy does not require a nomination for my office. Graduating from one of these academies is an incredible honor, but it also comes with a serious responsibility: at least 5 years of active service after graduation. To be eligible, applicants must be U.S. citizens, at least 17 years old, unmarried with no dependents, live in New York's 22nd District, and meet the academic, medical, and physical standards set by the academies. Applications are reviewed by a board of service members. We take a whole person approach, considering academics, extracurriculars, leadership, character, and motivation, because we're looking for both strong students and strong leaders. Remember, you must also apply directly to the academy itself. A nomination for my office is a critical step, but it doesn't guarantee admission. The deadline to submit all application materials is 5 p.m. on October 20th, 2025. Applications received after that date cannot be considered. To apply, visit my website and complete the nomination form at the bottom of the Service Academy nominations page. If you have any questions, please call my Syracuse District office at 315-233-4333. My team and I are ready to help. These academies shape the future leaders of our military. If you are dedicated, driven, and ready to serve, I encourage you to apply. It would be my honor to support your journey.